how do we eliminate as much of this risk as possible? How do we mitigate it? We want to find the largest risk possible.
Like God gives his toughest battles to his toughest soldiers.
If you were the first person to get into Bitcoin, there was the most risk. Nobody knew.
I think every entrepreneur has failed.
Yeah, I saw a quote, shift your perspective, shift your reality. There is no such thing as physical without having a strong mental. The ultimate belief in yourself and the power within you comes from the greatest failures.
How do you think about risk when it comes to big business moves?
I think risk is yin and yang with success, black and white. There's duality that exists in this world, positive and negative. Risk and success are one of those dualities. If you want success, go ahead and say that you're going to get it without risk. You'd be delusional to believe that. So with that being said, you can't avoid risk. We want to find the largest risk possible, because if it's the largest risk possible, risk and success, and my understanding would be that it's going to be the most opportunity as well, right? For example, whenever you're getting into a vehicle, think about Bitcoin. If you were the first person to get into Bitcoin, there was the most risk. Nobody knew what it was going to be. I'm talking about when it was dollars, pennies. Nobody knew anything about it at that point. That was the most risk to jump into Bitcoin. Now it's less riskier. So you want to look for the most risk.
Sort of.
Then, yeah, sort of. You want to look for the most risk and find a way to mitigate that now. That's the business part about it. That's where it becomes strategy. We find the most risk and say, okay, this is the most risk, most opportunity. How do we eliminate as much of this risk as possible? How do we mitigate it? Make it more strategic, where we're not falling into the gaps. We're not going to lose on this risk just because we were negligent. And that's where you create your business model and your strategy, and then you execute on that. And there's always that chance for failure. But because you've planned and found a way to mitigate it as much as possible, you're going to increase the probability of that risk working out for you. Although, don't get it wrong, there's always a chance to fail. And that goes right back into, do you choose to worry about the fear or focus on the faith?
And
There's a point where you can't plan it. You can't plan any further, and you're just like, you know what? This is as much planning and mitigation as we could do. The rest is in God's hands. We're going to focus on faith.
Yeah, and that was the other thing I was going to touch on too. It's like anytime I've ever been into a major issue or there was a major problem, the one thing I always try to tell myself is it always works itself out. I've been in some dark spots. I've been broke. I've been in many rough situations, and every time it's always worked itself out. So it's like I can sit here and continue to stress about it, dwell about it, let it boggle me down from achieving what I'm supposed to be doing. But the reality is it's always going to work itself out.
Nothing is really as bad as it seems.
100%.
I tell people all the time, if you are still kicking and you're still alive, think about it. You have gotten through every dark moment of your life. You have, because you're still here.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, some people aren't. And some people didn't get through those dark moments. Those are real problems.
Yeah.
Those are real problems that people face that they did not make it through. If you are still here today, then you've made it through every single problem. So for you to empower this new problem by worrying about it is delusional, because look at the scoreboard. You're 10-0.
So how much of life is mental? How much of life is physical?
100% mental, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Because there's no such thing as physical without having a strong mental. If I'm crippling myself through fear and doubt, your physical won't move. You won't do anything. You won't get up. You won't go work out. You won't accomplish anything. But if your mindset is abundant, positive, faith-driven, that is going to encourage you to get up and take action. So it's 100% mental. Physical will just follow. Physical is the byproduct of being mentally strong.
Mm-hmm.
You being in shape is the byproduct of you having mental tenacity and saying, hey, I want to go get my ass into the gym, work out, and get in shape. But if you didn't have that mentality, there's no way. That's the difference between somebody who's in shape and somebody who's not. It's just the thought process.
Mental discipline. Just being disciplined.
And desire. Like the want to go put yourself through that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still mental. Hey, I'm thinking about
100%.
going and getting myself in shape. Some people don't even give a fuck. They're like, I don't want to get in shape. I don't care about it. It's not important. I don't want to look like a douchebag to them. You have a different perspective on what fitness is for you. And that's why you go and you get into the gym.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, everything you do was a thought first, right? It started as a thought, and you put the discipline into making it happen. So you could choose to stay in bed all day and do nothing, or you can wake up and get up off your ass and do what you need to do and get it done.
That is why, a lot of times it sounds crazy, but that's why I believe the whole simulation theory, that we are in a simulation that is all just an experience of our consciousness. We're experiencing, everything right now, and it's all just our own thoughts. I really believe that, and more so, just seeing how I've manifested things into my life and things have came and materialized and came into fruition. Because every time I think about it, and maybe more people can do this too, but if you think about your life today and focus on what you were thinking about in the past, my life now is always the exact reality of what I was thinking about years ago. Not exactly trucking, not the exact details to some extent,
Mhm.
but a lot of things about my life right now are just thoughts
Literally.
of before. And even when I was a degenerate kid, my thoughts as a degenerate kid are what created that. And I knew that too. I thought about it at that point, thinking, damn, all this trouble around me is because I have all the shit that I was thinking about before.
Yeah. Literally everything in our life right now was all manifestation. It was all a thought. It was a want at some point or
Yeah.
another, and now it's just manifested itself.
Hmm.
So I feel like anybody, when you put your mind to something, I mean, you can accomplish it if you put in the work to accomplish it. You know what I mean? It's all mental, 100%. So I mean, there's no way around it.
I mean, I agree. I think it's 100% mental. I think perspective is key. Obviously, I think people think that their problems are bigger than they are because they don't have perspective on problems in the world. They think that,
Experiences. It's experience.
yeah, they got a bad grade on a test and they think it's the end of the world, not understanding that people in Syria right now are doing, going through murder and
Yeah, I saw a quote: "Shift your perspective, shift your reality." That made so much sense to me. Everything is a perception, right? You can view it from a lens of positivity or view it from a lens of negativity. Now that does get difficult at times. If you have a loved one that has cancer and is dying, go ahead and make that make sense in a positive manner. That's tough. I, I
It's life's experiences. Life's experiences mold you into the individual you are. When you were raised a certain way and brought up a certain way, like for instance, I was raised on a lot of tough love, right? So I inevitably carry that, and I do tend to pass that on to my children, mostly my older son. But the reality is the life experiences you go through is inevitably what molds you. Like, for instance, you may have been scammed before, right? So you may be in a situation where you maybe parked some money somewhere and
Yeah.
lost your money, and that may halter you from making decisions that can, further benefit you, from more success because you're afraid to make that leap now again. So again, I think it's perception and experiences actually,
yeah.
affect that.
Yeah, but the point that I was making is that sometimes it's really hard to have that positive view on things because you don't know another way to look at it, and sometimes the
Exactly.
only way to look at it is by saying, "Hey, I came to this earth, and I want to experience every high of high and every low of low. The worst of the worst, the most painful things, or things that I can experience. I want to experience those as well, because how do you truly appreciate the highs of the highs if you haven't suffered from the lows of the
Oh
lows?"
yeah.
yeah. And to David's point about its experiences that shape you, in conjunction with what we were talking about earlier, it's how you perceive the situations that you're in.
Hmm.
You both heard about like the alcoholic father. It's like someone never drank. One of the kids never drank because his dad was an alcoholic, and then the other one only drinks because his dad was an alcoholic. It's the same thing, but it's just how they interpreted the experience. What's the most valuable lesson that you ever learned from failure? Either one.
Never give up. I mean, you're gonna fail. I mean, I think every entrepreneur has failed. And if you look, the most successful ones that went through the most adversity are now, where they are for a reason because they just never gave up. So that would be, my take on that.
The best lesson that I ever learned was that what's inside of you, what you're capable of, what you can do in this life is far more than you would ever imagine. And sometimes it takes being tested to the point where you feel like you are completely broken, you are down, and you can't find your way back up. It takes going through that in order to truly see the strength that's within you and the power that's within you to really accomplish anything that you ever wanted to accomplish. Without that test, you don't really know what your limits are. If you've never tried to bench press a heavy amount of weight and fail from trying to bench press that weight, you don't know what you're made of until you've gone through the gym, worked your way back up to hitting that weight that you wanted to hit.
Hmm.
So the ultimate belief in yourself and the power within you comes from the greatest failures. And that's why one of the biggest things that I talk about to people is, once you become successful, one of the most profound things that realized when I became successful was that had you believed in yourself the way I do now that I'm successful, had you believed in yourself that way earlier, you would have accomplished this success a lot sooner. The issue is you don't believe in yourself enough yet with enough intensity, with enough emotional intensity behind it to really attract and move the way you want to move to manifest things you want to manifest. So sometimes God is going to allow you to be broken, to be squeezed, to be squeezed to the point where what He put inside of you is being pulled out of you so you can finally, um, believe in yourself with that amount of intensity.
And it's like the one other quote you usually say too. It's like God gives His toughest battles to His toughest soldiers, right? So I firmly believe in that. You're going to go through a lot of tests in life, a lot of different seasons in life, and it really just comes down to learning lessons from hard times and learning to just build from that. I mean, I think again, it comes down to the the way we handle things as individuals. I think the toughest part is understanding that we're very capable of enduring a lot of stress and a lot of pressure under different circumstances, but learning and growing from that allows you to know better, do better, and achieve greater, over
Yeah,
time.
and it is the common pattern. If you think about it,
Hmm.
everybody in the Bible, Job, David, these guys went through really, really dark moments in their life. Joseph, all of them went through some really bad,
King
scary
David.
moments. You're talking about people that have been to prison. You're talking about people that have had their families, well, the families died. They've lost all their wealth. They've lost their health. You're talking about people that had people coming after them to kill them. People that were resting in caves by themselves, dark caves by themselves, abandoned and become kings, become great after that. So it is the common pattern. There is something about what God does to us and the process of life where I think everybody's going to go through these tests, and you need to show that you are capable of choosing faith through these tests to see the other side.